Boa tarde.
Já vamos transmitir. Já estamos transmitindo, na verdade. Boa tarde. Meu nome é Thelma, sou uma das editoras da Léxicos. Gostaria de dar as boas-vindas a todos. Esse evento de lançamento do livro A Dimensão das Cores, do nosso autor, Mark Wentworth, está sendo transmitida pelo YouTube, ao vivo. Pelo YouTube, a transmissão será feita somente em português. E aqui no Zoom, vocês têm a opção de escolher no botão interpretação se vocês querem ouvir a voz original em inglês ou traduzida. A gente vai ter traduções simultâneas. Então, vocês podem escolher em interpretação, português ou inglês. Eu vou mudar aqui agora, já vou ouvir só, né? Já estou transmitindo lá só em português. E agora eu passo a palavra para a Vera, minha sócia.
Hi. Primeiro, boa tarde a todos, bem-vindos. Meu nome é Vera e eu vou apresentar o nosso autor, o Mark Wentworth, e eu vou apresentá-lo em inglês, porque aí no YouTube as pessoas vão ouvir em português, ok? So, Global Color Ambassador Mark Wentworth has been studying and working with color for over 30 years. He is the creator of color psychodynamic method and co-creator of dynamic theater, both integrating the archetypal and visionary worlds of Carl Jung. Mark is based in UK, as well as working across 11 countries worldwide. He continues to add a little color to the lives of many. So, Mark, now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I'll see if I can remember some of my Portuguese. Boa tarde a todos. Bem-vindo kind of esta palestra. Tenho muito entusiasmo com este livro. Agora kind of na português, especialmente na Brasil. And the rest I'll do in English. So I am normally when I start and do a talk and talk about my work with color, I usually start by telling my story. But I thought this time I'm going to tell you the story of this little book. This little book started life way back in 1998. And in round about then, people were saying, is there a good book? Is there a good little book about color that covers all the different aspects of color? Because when you start working with color and you look at color, there are so many different areas of color. There's color in fashion, there's color in decor, there's color in clothing, there's just color everywhere. Literally our whole life is filled with color. Literally from the moment we're born until the day we leave this world, there's color. Even when we're asleep, there's color. And at that particular time, I was looking around, and there's of course there are many different books on color, but no one sort of little book which just gave an insight into the many different areas of color. And so call it divine inspiration, but I literally just sat down and put what's now here into, it took me about maybe 2 or 3 weeks just to put it all together and make this little book. And to start with, I used to go to my local print shop, the copy shop, and have it photocopied and then folded in. It was A4, fold it in half, staples down the middle, and that was it. And it started, people were very excited, and it started traveling out all over the world. And people kept saying to me, if I would go to different countries, they would say, oh, we really like this book. Can we translate it for you? Can we translate it for you? It's in many different languages. I think it's about 8 or 9 now. And so I was so excited and pleased because I've been to Brazil, I've worked in Brazil. I lived in Portugal for 14 years, but I've worked in Brazil 3 or 4 times. And so I was absolutely delighted when I had this conversation with Thelma and Vera and at Lexicos, and they wanted to produce this. And I'm so excited. And the reason I'm so excited about this copy is because it is the first copy ever in the world that is in full color. So I'm delighted that the first one in Brazil. My first book in Brazil is in full color. So in this little book, there's so many different areas to do with color. You know, if we think about color, like I said, from the moment we're born until the day we leave this world, we're constantly surrounded by color. There is no moment, even when we're asleep, we're still surrounded by color. It's dark, but we're still affected by it. There is this energy, it's a frequency, which we're constantly being affected by. And most of the time, I believe that most people are colorblind, not in the traditional sense of colorblind, but it's like we go around with blinkers on and we don't really take notice of the colors that are around us because color is always there. Maybe the only time we take notice is whether it's the colors we choose to wear, colors we choose to decorate with, maybe if we have a choice about the color of our car. Apart from that, that's how we exist. Unless, of course, we work with color, whether we're artists, kind of designers, maybe then. But for the majority of us, we have this view of color. And it's this subtle effect of color that actually has such a profound effect upon how we live our lives. You know, and one of the things that I really wanted to get across in the book was helping you to become more color conscious. You know, why is it when you go into a store, for example, that certain products are on this shelf and others on another shelf? You know, why is that? What is that about? And why are certain products certain colors? Why are they not a different color? And yes, of course, there's the whole marketing, etc. But this is about the reason behind the colors. Every color has, as we know, an energetic, a physiological, and a psychological effect on how we relate to the world and how we respond. And the idea of becoming more color conscious is, firstly, we make better choices. You know, so I know that, let's say, when I go to the wardrobe first thing in the morning and I choose clothes, I can choose clothes which reflect how I actually feel. And equally, I can choose colors to decorate with and have them in my home that support my personality. And so, and that sometimes people say, well, why isn't this little book which has, let me tell you, 80 pages, why isn't it bigger? Well, it could be bigger, and my hope is the second one is going to be much bigger. But 80 pages actually gives you a whole prescription for living fully. It gives you enough information to completely change your life just by... Could I ask someone to, there's kind of, to mute some people, because, or if you could mute yourselves, please, that would be most appreciated, just so we don't get any interference. So where did it all begin? So my story is way back many, many years ago. When I was about 6 years old, I remember being totally mesmerized by a rainbow that I saw on my grandmother's ceiling. And the colors to me were completely alive. They were full of stories and possibilities. And of course, at that time, you never realized that actually it's your soul's calling, it's your kind of life's work that's making contact with you. Then jump forward a few more years, and I trained as a makeup artist in TV and film. But again, it was the right area, but I knew it wasn't exactly it. Then I met my teacher, and as soon as she started talking to me, it's like a language that my soul understood. And I knew then exactly that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know how I was going to work with color, but I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And I think that's the thing that I love about color. In a way, it's completely silent, and yet it is very primal in its reaction. It creates such intense reactions in people, very subtle, but very primal. I mean, if, for example, you go right back to the beginning and you look at all the creation myths that exist around the world, there is a high percentage that will always talk about a rainbow. You know, kind of I know there's some tribes in Amazonia that will talk about the rainbow anaconda, which was part of the world creation. In Aboriginal culture, again, there's the rainbow serpent. And in Spain, there's an ancient prehistoric cave painting of a symbol of a man whose arms outstretched, and there's an arc around. He's holding an arc between two hands, so here like this, and he is known as Indulu man, and Indalo, and he was known as the messenger of the gods. And the rainbow was signified as the bringer of hope, because after the after the rain, and kind of when there's lots of rain and suddenly the sun shines through, you get a rainbow. So color, rainbows, everything that we associate with color in nature is right there at it's almost like primal. It's very instinctual. We look to nature. Nature is filled with color. That's how nature communicates to us. If we live in parts of the world where there's seasons, you know, when there's different seasons, we know the seasons are changing by the shades and tones that are coming into being. To me, color is light made visible. That's how we get to see what's happening. That's how, you know, I also talk about color. As color is also intuition made visible. It's a silent yet very powerful language, which is constantly communicating to us, and it's readily available for all of us to use. And one of the things that I talk about in the book is about clothing. Why do you choose the colors you choose? Beyond do they suit you, but what message is it? What are you trying to say? I view that, I always say to people, never choose the colors you're going to wear. Never choose it the night before. Because how you feel the night before may not be how you feel the next day. And the colors we choose to wear, it's a bit like kind of a weather map of the soul. It kind of tells us very much about how we're feeling on the inside. So we choose colors to support that. Many years ago, in kind of the 1980s, it was very popular to have your colors done, and it was all about the colors you wore, whether you wore the right colors. And indeed, there was encouragement of power dressing. And power dressing, the encouragement of power dressing was, if you're going to a business meeting, wear red. Which, yes, it works. It gives you the appearance of being confident, but it has almost like the adverse effect if you're not actually feeling confident, because people will treat you as if you are confident, but if you're not, it's going to really make you feel uncomfortable. So I'm always helping people to choose the colors that you feel most comfortable with. Let them tell your story. You know, when you look at, for example, staying with the clothing aspect, when you look in your wardrobe, when you open those doors and look at all the colors, what's the story? If you were a complete stranger looking in your wardrobe, what would the colors be that you see in there? What will the colors be saying? What story are they telling? And equally, some of the work that I do is working with psychodrama, and which is in relation to color, it's encouraging you to become the color. Because most of the time, our relationship with color, well, it isn't a relationship. It's very one-sided, because we kind of say, well, I don't like this color. I hate this color. I love this color. And so when someone says to me, for example, I hate yellow, sometimes I will ask them and I say, well, have you ever considered that yellow equally might not like you? Maybe it doesn't like you either. And so when we want to build a relationship with color, it's always thinking about it from color's perspective too. So as much as when you're coming back to your wardrobe, look in your wardrobe, yes, what do the colors say when you look at the colors? But equally, if the color of your clothing, the colors you choose, were to talk, what would they say back to you? Build a conversation. That's how we develop a relationship with color. It's a living thing. If we, again, start at the beginning and think, what is color? Color is a refraction of light. It's kind of, it's the refraction of light, which is on the visible light spectrum. That's how we see color. So therefore, and even to the point where our cells communicate with each other through light. And when we get sick, when we get ill, when we have illness, or when we feel low, it's because literally there is a breakdown of light communication between the cells. Now, if just bear with me on this and go with this, and sometimes people talk, when I'm working with color, people will say, well, it's a little bit woo-woo, it's a little bit too new age, but just bear with me on this and think about it from this perspective. Let's use color, let's use a metaphor for the moment. So if our cells communicate with each other through light, and we are something like, I think it's something like 75, 82% water. So if you put light and water together, and think about it in nature, when you have sunlight and rain, when you put that together, you get this amazing thing called the rainbow. So we could say that there is truth on some level that we are indeed walking rainbows, because our cells communicate through light, and we are made up of, is it 75, 82% water, something like that. So together we are this walking rainbow. So whenever that's why I love working with color. And that's why, in one way, my intention for the book was always about how can I help you become more color conscious? How can I make you aware and help you to take notice of all these things around you, all these colorful things, and how can you use them to, let's say, help you improve your life or help you at times of stress? And that's the idea of sharing the information in the book. So coloring clothing, absolutely take notice, and if there's colors which you don't like, of course there are colors we wear which actually don't suit us, so it's beyond that. If there's a color you don't like and you just say, I just really just do not like this color, just stop for a moment and think, what is it? What does it make me feel? What is it about this color? How does it make me feel? Because very often, I also talk as well, part of my role as a global color ambassador, and I'll tell you about that in a moment, is in a way I feel a bit like a lawyer for color, defending color, because we blame color for so many things, and yet color is always innocent. It's what we ourselves associate with it, which is why I say, if you have a dislike of color and you just go, nope, I would not wear this color, beyond whether you'd wear it, but you just said, nope, I just really dislike this color. What is it? What is it about that color? What is it? What does it remind you of? Who does it remind you of? What story does it remind you of? Because color has this amazing ability, just like if you're driving along in your car and suddenly a song comes on the radio and immediately we're transported back in time to a memory. And it usually it's usually a kind of a first love or something, but it will remind us of someone. And the same smell, exactly the same thing. Maybe we'll smell a certain food which reminds us of childhood, or a certain smell we remind us of. If it's a perfume, again, it will remind us of someone. They're obvious, but color acts exactly the same way. It's much more subtle about it. And it will take us back, and our immediate reaction to it was, I don't like this color. And yet it's nothing to do with the color. It's more about what we ourselves have associated with it. So that's one bit. So really look at your colors, and kind of look at the colors in your wardrobe and say, which color is really going to make me happy today? And in the book, I've given you key points of what all the colors mean, and when you wear them, not only how do they make you feel, but what is the message that you're actually sending out? Because most of the time, as you know, that when people see us and we meet people for the first time, it's not so much what we say, it's the silent language. It's the body language, the silent, and part of that body language is the colors we're wearing. So that's why I wanted to really cover lots of different areas, almost like all the areas that are important to us, where color is and how we can make a difference in our life. Then it comes about also in the book, we talk about what colors we decorate with. And what colors we surround ourselves with, you know. And sometimes it's not about the colors. Maybe you don't want to paint the whole wall or the whole room a specific color, but you can have accessories. You kind of maybe you want to have maybe it's soft furnishings like cushions, things you can move, you can take away, you can bring back, or a blanket, throw, whatever, something that you can use as and when you need to. And this is a way, again, of well-being, because the thing about color is most people associate color with vision, but we also sense and feel color through the skin. Our nerve endings are incredibly color light sensitive. So sometimes, even though you can't see the color, we're still absorbing it through the skin, and actually it's creating a physiological response in the body, which is why it's not in the book. It's something separate. But I encourage you to try watching a movie, maybe a movie that you've seen many, many, many times before. Choose to watch maybe 5 or 10 minutes, five minimum, and just turn the sound off and just watch the color. Pay attention to the colors that they're using in those 5 minutes. Because in film, there's always a color story in the background. And because we're focusing on the screen, whilst we're focused on the screen, we're absorbing all of these colors, all of these different frequencies and vibrations, and we're absorbing those, and they are creating a physiological change within the body. And the color story is always slightly ahead of the actual story. And as that happens, because we're having this very quick physiological change, when we get to the next scene, our body is already in the emotional state for what we actually see on the screen. It happens very, very fast, but if you watch a movie and just watch 5 minutes without sound and just pay attention to the color, you will notice the color story in the background. It's always slightly ahead. And we do exactly the same thing. We have a color story. Pay attention to the colors that you've used over the years, whether it's clothing, decor, whatever, and look at how your colors have changed, and then compare them to the times in your life when things have changed. And you will notice, just like in the movies, your color story is always slightly ahead of your life experiences. So it's like literally on a subconscious level, the colors know exactly what's about to happen next. Exactly the same as, again, when you're using the movies, when you go to the cinema, and you always see these previews of what's coming soon. Exactly the same thing. The colors that you feel drawn to, maybe your normal colors are, let's say, blue and green, and then you're out, and over a period of a few days, a week or more, you start feeling yourself being really drawn to purple or lilacs, and they just, everywhere you look, you just seem to see this color, and you go, I don't understand that. It's not my color. It's not a color I'm drawn to, and yet here it is again and again. And that's what I call when color starts flirting outrageously with you, and it really starts calling your attention. Then something's happening below the surface that you're not yet conscious of. So the more we pay attention to our likes and dislikes of color, the more we start to understand, what is my story? What are these colors trying to tell me? How can I harmonize myself with them to live more in alignment and more in harmony with my, let's say, with my soul's calling. And we'll come back to that again in a minute. So you've got clothing, very important. You've got decor, the colors we surround ourselves, they support. And people will say, well, there's colors I would wear, but I wouldn't necessarily decorate with. Yep, absolutely, I agree. The colors you wear is a bit like kind of the daily weather forecast. It's going to, maybe it's a bit cloudy with a little bit of sunshine. Maybe it's going to be a grey day, especially if you live in the UK. It's going to be a grey day. There's going to be no sun. So you choose colors accordingly. They're your, what I call, they very much reflect the colors we choose to wear, very much reflect your, let's say, surface emotions. The colors we choose to decorate with, because they're much more solid colors and they're more permanent, they're the ones that support your core being. This is where, if I've had a stressful day, I want to come home and I want to be surrounded by a color that supports my well-being, that helps me to come back into balance. And that's why we have a difference between the colors we choose to wear and the colors we choose to decorate with. And then, of course, when it comes to color, most people know about the chakras and also about the healing power of color, and especially in relation to the chakras. Well, it's good to know about the chakras. The chakras explain so much, but sometimes knowing about the chakras and where they're situated in the body can get in the way. Because with color, you're going to have, there's what I've taught people over the years is there's a very, very simple, what I call do-it-yourself color therapy. Let's say you've got stomach ache. Let's talk about the physical stuff. Let's say you've got stomach ache or you've got tension in the stomach. Now, if you know about the chakras, you'll go, oh yes, that's the solar plexus. I must focus on yellow. Great. But I'm much more into helping people find their own color prescriptions. So I'm more likely to say to you, okay, you've got this stomach ache. What color is your stomach ache? Give it a color, any color. If it's yellow, yes, it's yellow, but maybe it's, I don't know, green with pink spots or red with jagged yellow lines. When we give it the color that comes to mind, we're much more in connection with the soul. To me, we talk about soul, it's this kind of abstract thing, we kind of sense it, but color to me is a language of the soul. I talk about color as being the sign language of the soul. So when I say what color is a stomach ache and the person says, oh, it's a real deep, dark orange, what I'm understanding is that is the message that's coming from the soul, from that person's soul, not about the color of the chakras. And then I'll ask, well, okay, if there were a color that was going to be best to help make you feel better, heal it, transform it, what color is that? And again, whatever is the first color that comes to mind, then it's much more of a personal prescription rather than relating to the chakras. The chakras are amazing, kind of reference points and something to be aware of, but I'm much more into actually helping people find their own color prescriptions. And that's the idea of in the book, is to give you, let's say, basis and foundations, but then encourage you to find your own as well. So the other thing in the book, and first of all, let me tell you about, Global Color Ambassador. Let me tell you how that all started. Well, I've been working with color now professionally working with color for 35 years. And, you know, kind of, I would talk of myself as a color therapist, and then someone said color specialist, and it's okay, color specialist. And then working, as I've been saying to you, I work with color in such a way of kind of very much connecting with sign language of the soul. I also kind of work with dreams, the color of dreams, etc. And literally one morning, in that in-between state between asleep and waking, this voice just said to me, you realize you are the ambassador of color. And it was like, you know, this sort of voice very clearly. And I was sort of, that woke me up, and I was looking around trying to find out where the voice came from, but it was clear. And it was something that really stayed with me. And yet, equally, I will tell you that it took maybe 2 or 3 years of working with my kind of working in therapy, working with my coach, to actually feel comfortable to say that, because there was a part of me that like think, well, who am I to be able to mention this? Who am I to be able to call myself kind of an ambassador of color? And then gradually and then someone was talking, and they said, well, it's color ambassador, and someone introduced me, and they said global color ambassador. And suddenly it all made sense. It's like, yeah, I do in a way give a voice to color. I do kind of, and it came, so that title came in a dream, but it took a long time to feel very comfortable in being able to say that publicly, and to actually write it in a book even. So the other part of the book, which has been my absolute passion and the real part of what is color psychodynamics, what is the essence of the book, and that is life path colors. Life path colors are a way of understanding and knowing yourself through color. Over the years, I've had emails, conversations with people who say, do you know, I carry copies of this little book with me everywhere, because I just want to check what color the person are. One lady wrote to me and she said, do you know, I was on a 7-hour flight from London to Dubai, and I had your book in my bag, and I spent kind of like 6-7 hours talking to all the people who were sort of next to me and along the row, working out their colors and finding out their life path colors, but and importantly, finding out their partner's colors, their children's colors. Even I think I've had people tell me that they found out their dog's color, the cat's color. Everyone has a color. As long as you know the date of birth, you've got your color. So what is a life path color? A life path color is, yes, we use the medium of numbers. So we use the numerology to get from your date of birth numbers to colors. And sometimes people will say, well, it's this random thing, you know, kind of, I didn't choose the day I was born. Well, in a lot of, let's say, kind of tribal belief system, ancient belief systems, they will believe that we're born on the right day at the right time from the astrology perspective, because that tells us, that sets the tone for how we will be in the world. And by knowing your life path color, it gives you a sense, and I talk about it, it gives you a bit of a roadmap as to how you relate to the world, and maybe how the world sees you. You know, kind of, if your color, let's say if you work out in your life path color is orange, then it's almost, I describe it as a bit like kind of, you're going to be going through life with a kind of pair of orange glasses on, because that's how you will relate to the world. And yes, the colors do relate to the chakras as well. And if you know about the chakras, your life path color, which connects your life path color, will have a chakra connection, and that chakra will then become your greatest strength. But equally, it will create for you your biggest challenges. Sometimes people will say, I need to have my chakras balanced. And I would always say, start from the chakra, which relates to your life path color, because that will always bring you back into balance. It's also the one color. Sometimes people will say to us, oh, you need to be more grounded. And your life path color is the color that will ground you fully, because that is the color, that is the frequency and the vibration that your soul has chosen to incarnate on. So therefore, it is the color that's going to totally root you into the here and now, into this world. Your life path color is like your bestest friend, knows everything about you, and it will still be there. There is, if your color, let's say if your color is green, or let's say your color is green, there is no one right shade of green. The only correct one is the one that you want it to be. So if you want it to be sort of a dark green like this one behind me here, so be it. If you want it to be a very kind of almost like lime green, spring green, absolutely fine. The only right shade of your color is the one that you want it to be. Apart from that, you can have, like, let's say 5 green people, and maybe they'll always choose a different green. So it's making it personal to you. And it's in the book, it will tell you the characteristics. It will give you the kind of idea of what is the color, the characteristics and the personality of that particular color. And why I said it's a bit like having a roadmap. And what I found over the years is many people have said to me, when they know their color and they kind of either read it in the book or I tell them about it, they kind of say, you can see this almost like this sigh of relief and this sort of like weight lifted off their shoulders, because it's like saying, you've given me permission to be who I always thought I was, but maybe I was afraid to be, or I hid this part of me. It's like kind of, let's say, why try to be blue when your life path color is red? It's a bit like saying, why try to be, let's say, why try to be like a lotus flower when you were born to be a hibiscus flower? You'll always feel out of sync. When you know your color, it gives you permission, like I said, to relate and to be yourself. And it really is, it's with you for life. It's never going to go away. That color is, and let's say, it's going to be the longest relationship that you ever have, because it's been with you from birth and it's going to stay with you right till that very last breath. So you've got a lot of time to get to know your color. And so a life path color, what it does is it helps you to understand behavior patterns. Why do I act like this? Why do I feel an impulse to do this when society tells me to do this, or my parents tell me to do something else? And that's another thing. When you were in the book, obviously it tells you how to work out your life path color, and it tells you all the 9 colors. But equally, it's so much fun and so revealing when you start working out family members. Or indeed, there was one lady who was telling me that she carries the book with her when she goes to a nightclub or a bar, and when she saw a man she was interested in, she would always say, "Do you want to know your color?" And her theory was that men always like to know something about themselves. They all like to talk about themselves. So she would, firstly, it was a great way of actually finding out their date of birth and how old they were. And then she would work out their color and tell them and read to them a little bit about their color, and then decide whether it was a color that she liked or not. So, life path colors, you can take them literally as like a Cosmopolitan magazine quiz. So you can keep it at that level, a very kind of superficial level. This is really fun. This is interesting to know. My partner is this color and I'm this color. And this is sometimes maybe why we see things differently. Or you can take it very deeply and say, okay, this is who I am at a core level of being. This is who I was born to be. This is me, and nothing's going to change that. And equally, you can't divide the whole population just into nine colors. What starts to make it personal is, again, we then start taking your name and we turn that into color too. And by understanding your name color as well, you get to see, so maybe, let's say you're orange and your name color comes out as violet. So you're kind of orange, but with a violet tinge or a hint of violet. And so it's a way of making it personal. That's what makes that, let's say, my color is gold, and there could be other people who are gold, but because of my name color, that makes us a little bit different. And again, people will say, yeah, well, I didn't choose my name. Well, there are schools of thought and belief systems which says on a soul level, we do know, on a soul level, our name is already chosen, even though it might seem spontaneously that our parents choose that name, or indeed we're named after someone in the family. Again, there's, on a soul level, there's a sense of this was already chosen. And it's one of those conversations that can be never ending, because there's fours again, there's fours for that, and there's against. So there's twos in different ways, different arguments about that one. But what's interesting is when you know your color, is what I find really interesting is when you start working out family color, like what color are your parents, and how did their color impact on your color? Maybe for example, maybe both my parents are red, which are very outgoing and very dynamic and always want to do something. They're very upfront. But maybe my color is indigo, which is much more quieter and is much more introspective. What happens, because the reds will worry that there's something wrong with me because I'm very quiet and introspective. So understanding, almost like it's a way. What I found, people have said that they not only use it for dating and understanding family, but equally they use it to understand their children. And I remember one of my students actually works in a kindergarten, and she used this. She took the book to kindergarten, and she was working out all the children's colors and talking to them about their colors, so they could understand how they all got on and why and where the differences were. And children seem to relate very easily to color. And I think one of my memorable moments, there have been many, was working at a school and helping the children do the calculations to find out their color. And this one little girl worked out her color. She was red. She was very red. For those who were taking a little bit longer than the red girl, she was helping them calculate all of their colors. And at lunchtime, when her mum came to collect her, she marched up to her mum. She was about 7 or 8 years old. And she marched up to her mother and she said, "I'm red, you're green. This is why we have problems." And, and her mom sort of looked back and said, and when I explained to her about what is a red, what is someone on a red life path, and what is someone on a green life path, it helped her to understand their relationship. And equally, she told me later, it helped them navigate the way through. Equally, in the same class, there was a mother who came to me and said, "I'm really worried about my son because he doesn't seem to be engaging in the group as much as everyone else. He seems to be sitting on the edge." And I said, "Oh yes, his color is indigo," which is very much like the observer, the one who really doesn't say too much, but always notices everything. And I said, "I bet if you ask him, he will know everything that is happening in the classroom, even more than what the teacher does." And when she had this conversation with him, he was about 7, he went, "Oh yeah, this one's, kind of, oh, that she likes him, but he doesn't like her." And she was amazed that even though from her perspective, he was being withdrawn, he knew exactly what was going on. So it helped her to feel comfortable about her son. So that's what I found. That's why, in a way, I love this little book, because it's 80 pages, and yet it gives so much information, and you can use it in a fun way, or you can use it and take it, really kind of go inwards with it and really use it to change your life. Because it's literally that. All you need to do is, as soon as you add a little color to your life, as soon as you bring in and consciously bring in a color, think of it like this: as soon as you do that, what you're actually doing on a deeper level is you are making a change to your frequency and your vibration. So it really is, and I think, and I really have come to believe, people tend to dismiss color. On one level, they say, "Oh yes, it's very kind of, it's a nice, it's healing," but they're very, in a way, a little bit dismissive of it. But they don't really understand the depths of what actually it does. It's just as simple as, well, let's say you want to, I don't know, let's say you know your life path color is green and life has not been too good, and you suddenly start bringing a little bit more green into your life. Maybe that could be a plant, that could be visualizing a color, going for walks in nature, something like that. And what you notice is gradually there's a shift, because you're consciously realigning yourself with your life path color. And that's what I love about life path colors. It's so simple, and yet it is so profound. And I think that's what I love about this little book. It's a little book. And as someone wrote many years ago when they did a review of the book, they said, "This is a little book that goes a very long way." And so that's what I would say to you about the book is, working with color is experiment with it. Try it. Notice what happens. Wear a different color. Find out what your life path color is. Find out what the life path color of your partner, your family is. have fun with it, but then step back from it and say, what is this telling me? Because color is always communicating to us. And if we understand that, then we understand that in that color, it's actually the soul. It's our soul that's actually trying to give us a message. So if we become more color conscious, we're much more, there's a term, is we live kind of ordinary lives, but in an extraordinary way. Now, I don't know whether that works in the Portuguese translation. It's a little bit of a play on words, but we say that we have a word called extraordinary, which just says it's a normal, but equally, if you split it, it's extraordinary, extraordinary, extraordinary life. So it's like the mundane suddenly becomes magical. It suddenly becomes super mundane. So, well, I'm going to leave it there for now. And I'm going to encourage you to really play with color, find out what your color is. And yeah, just share with us that we'll find a way, and just to find out what your color is. And over the coming months, along with kind of Thelma and Vera, we'll find ways of connecting, having a little color group. And maybe Martha, it's very nice, Marta Mendes. Thank you for being here, Marta, because it was for you to introduce me to Thelma and Vera, which made this book, this translation, this wonderful, wonderful little book possible. So incredible gratitude to you, Marta, and also to Elise Cabral. She came from a very good friend of mine from Portugal who did my training and then came to Brazil. And then it was Marta. There's so many stories with color that I could tell you about, so many links with color that sort of take me all over the world. And like color, it's just everywhere. So thank you very, very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this little insight into what color can do for you. And also, I really, really hope you enjoy reading the book and sharing the book. And also, you know, one of the important things to me, like I told you, I have been to Brazil. I've worked in Brazil. So I have this real warmth for Brazil. And one of the things that I said to Thelma and Vera is the royalties that come from the book are going to stay in Brazil, because I have a big passion for helping young people really live their purpose, really kind of to find out who they are. So the royalties will stay in Brazil, and then we will find a project which supports and encourages young people to be there, to be the best of who they can be. But thank you very much. Muito obrigado. Boa noite a todos. Até já. Over to you, Thelma and Vera. Oh.
Thelma? O Marco está esperando você, acho que falar. Yes, Mark, just a moment. I don't know if Thelma has something to say. Yes?
Okay.
O seu fone está desligado. Thelma, o seu fone está desligado. Nós não estamos ouvindo nada. Sorry, Mark.
Sorry. Yes, I forgot you unmute. Yes. First of all, thank you, Mark, for everything you said. And thank you, everybody, for coming. And
Thelma, o seu fone está desligado.
Ainda desligado?
Nós estamos ouvindo. Não, eu estou ouvindo. Eu estou ouvindo.
Estou ouvindo 2 vezes. Verinha.
Eu acho só que está um pouco baixo.
Ok. Está um pouquinho
Fala um
baixo,
pouquinho
mas está
mais
ok.
alto, por favor.
Você ouviu, Thelma? Ele está um pouco baixo, é só você falar um pouco mais alto. Fala no fone mesmo.
Desculpa.
Isso,
É que eu estou
fala
ouvindo
no
2
fone.
vezes, eu estou ouvindo com eco.
Então
Então eu ouço e aí não sei se eu estou...
Só que está um pouco baixo.
Está um pouquinho baixo, mas está ok.
Obrigada, Marco, né, pelas palavras, por tudo, né, que você, né,
Você ouviu?
sim.
Ele está um pouco baixo, só você falar um pouco mais alto.
I think there's a little bit of feedback coming.
Yes, that's it.
Mhm. Uh-huh. Everyone's on. Everyone's on. Vera, would you like to say something?
To thank you for everything. It was fantastic. I just love it as I love translating the book. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And I found out my colors. Yes, that yellow and blue. Oh. There's
Yep.
noise here. Yes, and I don't know if people here have questions, then we can ask Mark. And if does anyone want to ask a question? Alguém quer fazer alguma pergunta para o Mark?
Eu gostaria de fazer. Eu acho que estou sem vídeo.
Ok.
Acho que estou com o vídeo desligado.
Isso.
Mas desligado, você não pode iniciar seu vídeo, pois o anfitrião desativou o vídeo.
Eu não sou anfitrião.
Enfim, eu quero agradecer também o Mark, quero lembrar dias maravilhosos que a gente passou junto na Bahia, depois aqui nas praias de São Paulo, e ele é essa criatura fenomenal, eu recomendo demais, fiz o curso dele, já sei minha cor, então recomendo demais que todos possam comprar esse livro, porque é uma joia rara, assim como ele também. Mark é um amigo e tanto. Nos encontramos em Londres, ele é maravilhoso. Gratidão. Um abraço, querido.
Obrigado, Mali. Tudo bem?
Ai, fico muito feliz. I'm so happy that you are now in Brazilian lands, no?
Yeah,
with
me
your
too.
books, with your words. And I would like to say that I love so much your color face today. You are like a Hollywood star, a lot of color.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we have some Rosario, I noticed, is in Maria do Rosario is in Portugal. Yeah, so we have good.
No one else. Ninguém mais quer fazer pergunta ou falar alguma coisa? Não? Acho que não.
O livro, então, detalhes do livro, que você possa me dizer, para a gente poder começar a divulgar onde ele será encontrado, livrarias de shopping, nas capitais, como que se compra. Acho que isso é interessante.
Yes, she wants to know about the book, how to buy it, but I think Thelma can tell her. Thelma pode te falar, porque é ela que está cuidando disso. E aqui no Brasil, né, Marli?
Sim, porque
certo.
Esse vídeo está sendo gravado, então você sabe que tem uma repercussão muito grande. Gente, era interessante colocar, não é, algum ponto de venda, como é que vocês pretendem fazer, será por venda na Amazon, como será a parte de querer comprar o livro?
Isso, eu não sei, a Thelma está com algum problema com o áudio, talvez, ela não está aqui, mas o livro está disponível no site da Léxicos, mas nós temos vários distribuidores. A Thelma tem as informações completas sobre isso, ela pode passar. Só um minutinho, vamos ver se ela...
So just while you're getting the answer to those questions, Thelma asked a question. Thelma Franco Denise asked a question. I wonder if it's related to synesthesia. And just to say, synesthesia is where people actually see numbers, letters with colors. And it's so basically they describe it as a condition, and it's a part of the brain which is almost like fused together. So sometimes people will talk about that Monday is blue and the letter A is pink, and the times of the day equally have their own colors, and it's a condition which is called synesthesia. And there was a musician, I'm trying to think of his name, who had synesthesia, and he wrote a composition called The Color Symphony, because as he was playing the piano, he could see the colors. So he wrote something called The Color Symphony. And thank you, Rosario. I see your comment about taking my first course in in Lisboa. Yes, that was a few years ago. But thank you.
Is that all? Mais ninguém tem perguntas, nada? Mark, I thought it was very interesting this about the dynamic theater.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can you say something about that? Just a little bit of that.
Which part about? Tell me again, because I know different versions.
The dynamic theater.
Okay.
Is okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as a way of working with color, so sometimes, kind of we talk about color and it's very, let's say, it's always outside of us. We think about color, color is on the walls, color is here. In dynamic theater, it's very much about bringing it to life and saying, well, what about if you were a color? How would you act? How would you be? And dynamic theater is something that myself and a very good friend of mine in Portugal, Felipe de Moura, we created dynamic theater, and it's a method. It's a part of it. It's of expressive arts, which combines shamanism with psychodrama. So and color. So it's a way of kind of really bringing color to life, hence the reason that I named color. I have the name Color for Life, because it is for life. And it's knowing that your life path color really is a color for life. But only meaning, I don't know whether this works in the Portuguese translation, but color for life mean it's with you for life, but also meaning color for life mean it gives you life.
Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. A Thelma, desculpa, a Thelma estava tendo um problema, ela não consegue ouvir sem o eco. Thelma has a problem with the sound, okay, the audio. She is just an echo, so that's why she can't come here. And for the ones who want to know about, sorry, I don't know which language I have to talk in Portuguese now. Em português, sobre o livro, então eu vou colocar no chat o endereço da editora, o www.lexicos.lex léxicos.com.br, léxicos com K. E vocês podem encontrar lá o livro e também vocês podem mandar e-mail para nós para que a gente envie informações.
Yeah. And
Okay.
also I see that Thelma said it's also in some livrarias in São Paulo.
Isso. Uhum.
Yeah. So I can read Portuguese pretty well.
And also, yes, the Portuguese is good. I can understand you very well.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yes. So again, I wish you all a very good rest of the evening and a good weekend. And enjoy, just take a look around you. When you finished here, go take a look around you, see which colors are flirting outrageously with you.
Okay. And I thank you again very much for being with us. And that's it.
Yep.
E obrigada a todos por estarem aqui conosco. Muito obrigada. Em meu nome e em nome da Thelma, da Léxicos.
Obrigado.
Okay?
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Boa noite. Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite. Good night. A good evening. Yes.
Isso. See you, Marli.
See you.
See you. See you.
Oi, gente, meninas, foi maravilhoso. Eu ia falar para ele que eu não sei a cor dele, mas que ele é bem iluminado. Mas aí ele saiu.
Eu